Well, hey y'all, welcome to the Gramstead. Thanks for joining us. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to our channel. It'll definitely help our little farm out. So today I am cleaning up a little bit of a mess. I've got a batch of meat chickens that are going to be shipped out. That just gives me a few days before they're in the mail. So I've got to get this electric fence moved, and this is actually my chicken brooder. It's just standing up on its side right now. So I got to get this fence moved, and I actually have a few little repairs that need to be done to this brooder. So I need to get it all cleaned out and cleaned up and ready for some meat birds next week. We do batches of meat chickens every year, several times a year, and I just think meat chickens are a great option for smaller farms to raise. They grow out really fast. They're done in about 8 to 10 weeks. And like literally you could do like a half a year's worth of chicken, or even a year's worth of chicken if you're ambitious, and grow that out in 8 to 10 weeks. So for me, I think it's a great choice for our farm. But even if you're on a little bit of a smaller piece of property, you can definitely run a very small chicken tractor. And even if you're doing, 10 or 20 chickens, that's a lot of meat to put in your freezer for your family. So I just think they're a great option. So if you're sitting on the fence about doing meat chickens, I say go for it. All right, here's a look at the underside of my brooder. You can see my hardware cloth has came off of here. So I need to get that stapled back up. So before I flip it over, I'm gonna go ahead and get that done. All right, I've got the brooder bottom all stapled and finished out. It's nice and sturdy again. I like to sit my brooder up on top of these cinder blocks. I use these fine pine shavings in the bottom a lot of the times, not always. I've used various things, pine shavings, leaves. I've even used hay in there or straw, really just kind of whatever I feel like using. But I love to make compost, and I really like to add this into my compost pile. So I'm going to go with pine shavings. And the fine pine shavings do a really great job of just falling right through this hardware cloth. So a lot of the manure and shavings will just fall right under the brooder, and it makes it easy for me to clean out, to gather, to use for my compost pile. So now that I've got it set up on blocks and somewhat cleaned out, I mean, it's clean enough, I'm going to go ahead and put the pine shavings in. All right, that's about a half a bag of the pine shavings. Meat chickens do tend to make a mess in their brooder, so you can really count on using a couple of blocks of those pine shavings over the couple of weeks that the chicks will be in the brooder. My meat chickens this time of year will usually stay in no longer than 2 weeks, and I'm ready to get them out of there, so you end up using a lot of pine shavings. This is the style feeder that I like to use in my chicken brooder for my baby chicks. There are 14 holes on each side. I've got 100 chicks coming, so I actually have 4 of these that will be going in. Especially with meat chickens, you want them all to have access to their food 24/7 for the first week or so. So you want to make sure that you have enough feeders in your brooder so everybody can get to the food when they want to. 3 would probably be okay, but I'm just going to go ahead and do 4 because I want these meat birds to grow out nice and quick. The next thing you have to consider are your heat lamps. A general rule of thumb that I usually follow, and I say usually, is you want to have 1 heat lamp for every 25 chickens. That is definitely the rule that you want to follow if it's cold outside. You do not want these meat chickens to have to pile on top of each other to get underneath a heat source, because what will happen is that they'll pile on top of each other and they'll just smother each other, and whoever's on the bottom isn't going to make it through the night. So you definitely don't want them to be crowding underneath your heat lamps. So if it's cold, like I said, the rule of thumb is 1 heat lamp for every 25 chickens. That is somewhat flexible, especially if you live in a really warm climate like I do. We are in Florida. It's hot. It's almost 100 degrees outside today. So I am not going to have 1 lamp for every 25 chicks. I'm just going to have 2 lamps in there for my 100 chickens. And it's always a really good idea to have an extra box of heat lamp bulbs at the house in case you have one burn. I used to keep a thermometer in my brooder, but I do not do that anymore. If you just pay attention to what your chicks are doing, you'll know if you need more heat or less heat. Basically, you want your baby chicks to be running around the coop, kind of spread out. If they are all huddled underneath a heat lamp, that means that they're too cold. If they are hiding in the corner trying to get away from the heat and they're panting, that means that they're too hot. You really just want them kind of moving all about the coop, just doing their baby chick thing. The last thing that you're gonna need for your baby chicks in the brooder is just clean, fresh water. Chickens, they are notorious for getting their water super dirty. So that's definitely something that you want to check on a couple of times a day in your brooder. Just make sure they have nice, clean water. Fresh water does wonders for healthy birds. So that's really about all that you need for a meat chicken brooder. Meat chickens are a super easy thing to raise on your homestead. You don't need a whole bunch of land to do it, and it's a really quick way to grow out a ton of food for you and your family. So I encourage you, if you're sitting on the fence about meat chickens, to definitely give it a go. Check out my playlist. I've got a lot of meat chicken videos in there. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to our channel. I'm picking up baby chicks in the morning. It'll be super early at the post office, but I will definitely be bringing y'all along to pick them up and to unbox them and get them into the brooder. Thanks, y'all.